transforming bracket.
Fear Street is a Netflix trilogy that I will be 100% honest right off the bat. I had no idea what it was about going into it, but one thing I did note, didn't even have to deal with the plot, was the fact of its unique model. So, for those of you that don't know, this is a trilogy that a lot of times we have it where trilogies have it where each movie comes out about 2-3 years apart. However, this was a trilogy that was filmed simultaneously back to back to back. So what they did was, or what more importantly they could have done because it's Netflix, they could have easily dropped the entire trilogy out on one day, just the way they do it with their TV shows. But instead, what they did was they had it where it would come out once on a Friday, part 1, and then part 2 would come out the following Friday, and part 3 would come out the following Friday after that. So you had like a week in between each one that, in theory, would get you pumped up out of your mind for the next one. And I liked that idea. I really did. I was like, that is something that, for the studio that literally started the model of binge watching, it's pretty cool that they're not giving you that instant gratification of having you wait at least a week in between movies. Like, that's something I personally haven't seen before. So I liked that. I liked that whole model, everything. But unfortunately, this was a trilogy that I found myself not being too interested in as each minute progressed with this trilogy. I'm not going to lie. So it started off pretty strong with part 1, I thought, at least. But as that one progressed to the finale that we got, the cliffhanger, I was like, okay, the cliffhanger in theory would work, but I didn't really care about anything that was happening. So I was like, okay, I'll watch the following, movie. And I watched the following movie, and, after waiting a week, I was like, okay, it's whatever. And then, because I felt like it was whatever, whilst also leaving us all on a cliffhanger, I was like, okay, I'm probably going to wait a couple weeks. And I did. I ended up waiting almost a month to watch part 3, which isn't a good sign. But I also understand that this is a movie trilogy that I feel like, ironically enough, is geared more towards younger audiences, which is even more ironic considering that a lot of audience members probably would have been able to watch this if it came out in theaters, because they would have easily all been rated R. But because it's Netflix, kids can probably, stumble onto this trilogy. And I mean, for all the better. I feel like a lot of kids will probably enjoy this. This is definitely geared more towards like those audience members that really love Stranger Things, which for myself, I think that's a solid show and everything. But I also do feel like we're getting way too much 80s nostalgia, so it could just be that. Because there's nothing bad per se about this trilogy. There's just a lot of exposition, a lot of things that bogs down the experience for me overall in that aspect. Pacing also was something that I felt like at times it would speed up doing certain things, whilst other times it would slow down to a kind of monotonous focus. And the monotonous focus also was kind of annoying because, again, we're focused on characters that I personally didn't really care about. I wanted to, especially in part 3 with, the one couple. Not going to spoil anything, but I kind of wish that they did more with that, especially because it was really good representation. But so what they did with it, it was kind of like, eh. And I know I'm talking about negatives, and I don't hate the show. I mean, movie trilogy. See, there I go. It's literally structured like it's a show, but it's actually a movie trilogy. I didn't hate it, though. There were some things I did like. I did like the cinematography. I thought the cinematography was pretty solid and consistent throughout this trilogy. It looked good on 4K, too, I will say. I also really liked some of the kills. I thought those were pretty effective. The gore looked pretty good, especially during the nighttime scenes. I feel like anytime you have CGI blood, when you have it at nighttime, I feel like a lot of times it looks a lot better. That's just me personally from what I've noticed, but I did like that. I did like the whole aesthetic in terms of like the 80s. Again, I know I mentioned earlier about how it kind of seems done to death, but I did like how there were some kind of cool aspects to it, especially some of the throwbacks to, slasher movies of yesteryear. So I liked that too. And again, I also respect that this is a movie trilogy that, again, with that model that it has, it's never really been done before. And we can always pinpoint to this being the trilogy that kind of started that. I do wish that the cliffhangers, I wish that I was more engaged, so that way I'd be like, really pumped the way I am with like certain TV shows waiting week to week. I didn't have that feeling, unfortunately, but again, I give it props for trying at least, because again, as a fellow filmmaker, I get it. It's not easy, and the fact that they were trying, it's commendable. But the Fear Street trilogy, I'm not going to remember this. In fact, as I'm literally reviewing this, I'm slowly dwindling, forgetting this. I'm not going to remember this trilogy in like a week other than this model. But again, as I mentioned earlier, and I know I've said this several times, there's an audience out there, and I definitely respect and can appreciate if you like this. It just was something that, for me, it felt like old hat other than the whole approach, the model. But, guys, for me, the Fear Street Trilogy as a whole, I gave all of them the same rating, so I'll be giving the Fear Street Trilogy a 2.5 out of 5-star rating. So, very general review. I know I didn't go in depth or anything, but there's not really much to talk about with this trilogy. But, guys, Fear Street Trilogy, did you see it? Did you watch all 3, or did you just watch 1, 2, or 3? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as well as your ranking. For me, I think it would probably be, I would say maybe 1, 2, I would say 2, 1, 3 maybe. That might be my order, but I'm curious to hear your guys' orders down below. And as always, don't forget the subscription, notification bell, and I'll catch you guys later.